Yep, we good? Good?
I think so.
A little bit of setup. All right. Hello, guys. This is Justin Rosenberg with the F5 podcast, and I'm here with...
I'm Phillip Hodges.
Yeah, so we're just going to have a little conversation. So I guess what brought you to Operation Code to begin with?
I had been a teacher, teaching math and computer science for about 14 years. Decided to make a switch into the industry. So started reaching out to meetups for networking, and then mentoring, advice, whatever that would be. Found Operation Code's meetup, local, so it was in person because a lot of them were virtual. And I said, why don't I just show up sometime and see who goes and see what they do, what they offer, and then how I can potentially, get some advice, but then in the future advise others.
So did you contact me? Did I reply or did someone else reply?
I think I just showed up.
Okay.
Just saw the meetup and showed up.
Yeah.
Luckily, I like that it's at a coffee shop, so it's kind of like a public place that just anybody can show up and very relaxed environment.
That's what we strive for. Is not only do we have a location that's convenient for me, obviously. That's important to me.
Yeah.
But I didn't pick the location. Jim picked the location because the owner is actually like an IT guy. He used to be an IT guy. He used to program, and so I think that's pretty cool. And then it just grew. The pandemic really put a hamper in our step, but I was at the first post-pandemic meeting where we met outside, and it was it was really cool to see people.
Yeah.
Other than my wife. It was really good to be out there, and so tell us a little bit about your transition from you taught computer science, if you will.
Yep.
And high school level, right?
Yep.
And so you were teaching, and how did you make the transition to becoming a developer that you are now?
Yeah. So even back in high school, took computer science classes, took programming, whatever else. Decided to go the teaching route, and at that time, computer science teachers were just business teachers. So if I wanted to teach computer science, I'd have to get a business degree. That was not going to be what I wanted to do. So I actually had a degree in music and math, so I could teach either one of those. But I always liked technology. So then 10 years into teaching, they asked people if they wanted to teach computer science.
Yep.
And I said,
so what year was that they asked you?
Probably 2017.
Okay.
Ish.
Yeah.
So they, at the school I was teaching at, they didn't offer computer science except at our career center. So they taught Excel and Word, and that's what they considered computer science.
Yes.
So they wanted an actual programming course.
Right.
So I went through Project Lead the Way's training. It's a national organization that trains teachers to teach. They have biomedical engineering and now computer science. And so I went and got trained by them.
What was your experience with the training? Did you feel it was good training? Did you feel like it was mediocre training? What was your feeling?
It was definitely teacher training. So they focused just as much on the teaching of the aspects as they did on actual programming.
Right.
So, yeah, it's different. If you went to college for something, you do more the tech side, not teaching, where they did a good job of explaining that in technology, no matter how much you know, you still don't know everything.
Yes.
Which now on the developer side, I 100% understand.
Yes.
But that's the mindset that they needed teachers to even be in, because teachers naturally get trained in whatever they're teaching and become experts at that subject. And so they know almost every answer to any question a student might ask. But then going into a field like technology, computer science specifically, they were very upfront in saying, your students are going to ask you things you will not know the answer to.
Yes.
Just be comfortable The best that you can.
That's a great question, but
yes.
I haven't done that before.
Yeah. Which luckily that fit my personality. I like learning. I think what happened with me is I got kind of burnt out on math because I got so good at answering those questions and teaching that I needed to develop myself more. So going to the computer science route helped.
Okay, so you were a math teacher before, and then you became a computer science teacher. So what, what made you think that? Both my parents are teachers.
Yeah.
So my father taught political science, and he never got his tenure, but it meant that like my childhood was like a military childhood. Like I'd be there for like 4 years, and then be somewhere else for like 5 years, and be all because he never got his tenure. And my mother's a teacher, like a middle school to elementary school teacher. And she actually taught in Kansas City, Kansas until she retired. So what was it about, other than the fact that you don't get the money, because that's a factor, that led you from being a teacher to being a developer?
Yeah, I think the biggest change was I was still learning so much in the classroom. My students were teaching me. I'd have students that just research projects come to me with these great projects, and I know nothing about them. So they would teach me, and so I was still learning. And then, to be honest, I think the biggest tipping point was COVID.
Okay.
Once COVID hit, students couldn't show me projects. I was getting students that weren't showing up to the Google Meets, weren't showing up to virtual class. I'd still have my handful of kids that still motivated me to push myself and learn more, but it was nowhere near the number. And then we go back to school, and it's the same thing. I'm dealing with behaviors more than teaching, and so then it's
behaviors you think caused by the pandemic?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
People did not know how to interact with one another. So all the social skills that they get taught naturally, just being in an environment around hundreds of people, they didn't have that, and so now we had to kind of teach that, which I think is fine for the school district as a whole to develop, and that's where they're at. It just wasn't where I was at, where I was trying to progress my technical knowledge, and it just hit a little slowdown for me that I wasn't expecting. So then I started looking at teaching at a career center. Okay. I actually got a job offer at a career center.
Congratulations for getting an offer.
Yeah. So they want to hire me, but my current school district decided that they did not want to let me go. So
yes,
that was the next tipping point of like, okay, if I can't even teach what I want to teach, I'm just going to get out of teaching.
Yeah. I understand that frustration. I would be frustrated if my employer said, "Oh no, you can't go here because we want you."
Yeah, it's
like, I'm glad that you want me, but I always had a saying like, I tried going into management, and I went into management thinking, it's the next progression, natural progression.
Yeah,
and I was a manager for the corporate development team. And then there was an opportunity to work on the insurance team, and I was like, all right, I'll do it, but I need a time limit. And after that time limit's done, I need to have an offer for to be a software architect. So I was like a team lead, and I was a manager, and then I'm like, I'll do this for you, but if in 6 months you haven't hired somebody, like, you got to find another temporary guy. Like a month ahead of time, they found somebody. Like, it's like, that situation where you have to force the employer, because if you don't force them, then I would still be the insurance manager. But I had to kind of force them to say, hey, this guy's not into management. There was a guy I let go on the corporate development side that was a real unfortunate situation, which I'll get into later if you want. But that kind of scarred me from being a manager. So
yeah, I think the hard part in education though is that they can't offer any incentives. for you to do anything.
Right.
So my pay was going to be my pay no matter what teaching job I had.
Right.
No matter where I was. Like, the pay scale is so locked that they told me that I had to stay, but then did not give me any incentive to keep me to stay.
Right.
And so that's where the education market is, I think, a little bit further away than the real.
So you wanted to step. So you knew how to program. How did you go from there to whatever your current employer is?
Yeah. So once I was told, we're not letting you out this year, I actually went through WGU online to get another bachelor's degree in computer science.
Okay.
So that I could check that box whenever applying for software development jobs. So I luckily was able to complete it in 12 months.
Oh, wow.
So, whenever everybody else was leaving in May, that's whenever I graduated as well. So then I could pick up those entry-level jobs just like somebody fresh out of college would.
Right.
So then I applied, just like everybody else you've heard. You apply at 200 different places. 100 of them say no. 80 of them don't even reply. And so I got it. I'm so
ashamed of our technical. Like, you can't even say no. Like, they basically just ghost you, and that's the modern world.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it costs too much to send someone an email.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So I actually got more interviews than I thought I was going to get.
Okay.
Some of them, because I really did check all the boxes of tech, so not just software development jobs, but maybe even QA, program managers, or project managers, because my skill set is in that kind of
realm. Right. Because, former teacher, heck yeah.
And no tech.
Yeah.
So I just applied for anything and everything. So I did get some calls. I did make it that I didn't want to take a pay cut. Mm-hmm. So anything that was under my current salary, I had to just say no.
Yeah.
But what's weird is a beginner software developing job is still just slightly above what I was making after 14 years of teaching.
Yes.
So I could jump to that one, but the program managers and stuff, project managers, they were slightly under, not much, but slightly under, for a starting salary. Mm-hmm. So then, luckily I got called. I had about 4 or 5 interviews. Luckily at that point, I started focusing on what I really wanted. Mm-hmm. So I got a call in for a website design company, and they're like, we do 90% PHP. Mm-hmm. And I looked at them and I said, it's probably not going to be me.
Yeah.
It just, I didn't see where that would lead me 10 years from now. Yeah. So I was like, I just unfortunately don't think that this would be a good fit, even though, personality wise, I think we can get along, but it just isn't what I want. I got a couple other things from like contracting firms, but most of them wanted a little bit of experience, but they were intrigued by my situation because a little bit older.
It's a little unique.
Yes. I know how to communicate with people, so...
that's one of the key things for developers.
Yeah. And so I really got 2 job offers that I was considering. Mm-hmm. One was in the financial market, one was in the healthcare market. The financial one was not quite a support tech person, but kind of where you would take client calls, go into the code and fix them. Okay. So it was like a hybrid where their clients knew what they were talking about, at least on the program side. So I wasn't just talking about talking to anybody. It was very specific people. That was all remote, but they did, because they were taking calls, they were pretty picky on, this is an 8 to 5 job. Mm-hmm. And luckily, the job that I did take, they're like, we are an 8 to 5 kind of shop, but we have different time zones we're working in. We want to work within the means of everybody, so it was a little bit more flexible. Like, your son has a dentist appointment, go take him to the dentist. Just make sure you get your stuff done. Mm-hmm. And that is what really pulled me, and why I probably won't go back to teaching, because that flexibility is huge to me. I'm able to take my kids to things. I can pick my son up from track and not have to worry about it. I can, do family stuff and still have a good paying job and still get my work done.
It's amazing the difference that the pandemic, you say like it like kids I'm sure struggled. Like I can't imagine going through the pandemic while I was 8 or, any of those ages. In college, I think they probably just manage it pretty well. But before, I can't imagine going through it. But the other good thing is that, people work from home now. Do you work from home or do you work at the office?
Hybrid. I think if I wasn't in the R&D, if I was on the sales or whatever else, they really expect those people to come into work every day. So as a company, they feel like we should probably come into work.
Yeah.
But most.
Well, that's always the thought. Oracle sent out an email to their guys and said hey, we're reevaluating positions, and if you live near an office, then we'll have you come in. But if you don't live near an office, then we won't. And I'm like, these CEOs, I understand that managers like to see their guys develop. But if there's anything that we proved, one is that internet worked. I was impressed that internet worked. I couldn't believe the amount of people that were online at the same time, and we didn't have hardly any problems. And two, that people can work from home just as well as they can work from the office. And three, that actually costs the company less money. I'm sure I can talk about Jim's. Works at Yellow, and he would tell you he works at Yellow. Yellow Freight has a huge building in Kansas City, right off the highway. It was a little iconic when you're driving, and they closed down the building and went to an office, and the old T-Mobile / Sprint campus, and a much smaller size, and they are saving a buttload of money for making that move.
Yeah.
So I don't understand personally.
Yeah.
I understand the desire. I understand why they want people inside, but I believe hybrid is the right mixture of people that can see each other, do see each other, gives you that interaction. You never know when you might run into a guy or girl that doesn't even work in IT, but he may give you an idea, and that idea is hey, I can make your job better if I do this little thing, and
Yeah, but a perfect example, just this past couple weeks, I've been talking to people from other teams. We've created what we call a TAC group, so a technical advisory council, something or other. So we pull from different technical fields. And so as we talk, we start talking about what we do and how we want to be able to help out this group to come up with something that might help the employees. And so one of the guys was talking about Grafana. I know that I'm supposed to log in and see metrics, but on my team, our Grafana hasn't worked for a very long time.
What's for the audience and me? What's Grafana do?
It's more or less just a visual dashboard of metrics, and we use AWS, so it just imports all those AWS metrics so that you can see it in a dashboard, and then you can customize your dashboard to show specifically what you want. So
show metrics like code complete, or show metrics like the server's up, what kind of metrics?
Yeah, the AWS normal metrics of throughput.
Yeah.
Services that are up or down, when they're up and down.
Okay. But that doesn't work for your current group.
No.
Okay.
So, what I'm going to do, working this hybrid approach, I found out that he's in Kansas City just like I am, and so we're going to meet up at the office and go over, okay, I don't know anything about it. Teach me what you know. How can I implement this to better suit my team and what I can do to help support my team? But that connection would have never happened if I didn't have that opportunity to meet with other people than just my team. So being in person is that same effect. We go down to the coffee place in our thing, and so I'm there. I see somebody. We just say hi. What do you do at this company? Oh, this is what I do. And so the same thing happened. I found a couple other people that work adjacent to my team that I would have never known. And we start talking about things, and then I start getting a better picture of how I can do something when I implement it to better implement with them. And so I 100% think that some in-person interaction,
Yes.
or spontaneous interaction, I guess it doesn't even have to be in person, but how do you do that virtually? Just
I don't
randomly...
know. If anybody knows, put your comment down here and I'll read it. I'll respond. But yeah, like how do you just like randomly meet another guy or another girl or another person, and like how does that happen online or in Slack or
Yeah.
or wherever? It just doesn't. My wife, I hear her, she has like 1 day a month that they come into the office.
Okay.
And she says those days are mostly people catching up.
Yes.
Yeah, but this is important for that
Yes.
cohesive relationship. Like, I can't imagine. I was on a different team than I'm on now. I work for a clinical reference laboratory. We're currently hiring. So I used to be able to say we're hiring for IT all the time. And just recently, they let go of 5 people and they locked down hiring. And I'm like, why?
Yeah.
Okay. Like, things are going on, so I understand, pre-employment screening and doing insurance applications. Like, I'm not a manager. I don't know about that stuff. But anyway, they opened up for subscribers. They opened up a internship position for Chris Deo, the first person that I interviewed, and he starts this Wednesday. I really feel like he's going to do well.
Yeah.
But that hiring that internship position got over 30 applicants, and I am happy that with my reference, and even without my reference, like he was like above the top persons that were interviewed. I wasn't involved in the interview, but I know, like, talking to the person that interviewed, like, he's like, yeah, we'll go with Chris. So,
well, I think that going full circle back to Operation Code, I think that's some of the things that Operation Code provides people that I don't think we talk about. I mean, we do it in the little setting that we do, but it's hard to communicate. It's not just the networking, because that's great as well.
Right.
Amazing people are there, but it's also just talking the talk enough with the people that are in there, so that whenever someone like Chris goes to an interview, he knows the words to say.
Yeah.
Because we've been talking it every Saturday.
Well, and the biggest thing that I teach, because it's something that I want to communicate, is it's okay to say I don't know. Mm-hmm. Way better than just BSing.
Yeah.
Because if you BS, you're gone. Like, I know you're BSing, and I'm already marked you off the list. Like, I need someone who's honest.
Yeah.
And it will tell me, I don't know that, but I've heard of this thing, and this is, I think it's this, but I'm not sure. Or you give me a specification for a programming assignment, which I'd love to talk to Jim about that, because he's like anti like having someone code in the interview process.
Yeah.
Like, he's like, as long as I communicate well with that person, I would say I agree mostly, but I've had someone come to CRL that has an excellent resume who cannot program. If I held the gun to his head, he would not. Not be here. So that's the reason, like, I do it, but also I don't do it for the, like, hey, here's a big problem that I know how to solve and you don't know how to solve, so ha ha ha.
Yeah.
I do it so that I give the person unclear requirements, and I see if they ask for clarification.
Yeah.
And if they, like, that's like a major, like, you get bonus points if you ask it. If you just write down and you just solve it, like, that's good. And if you solve it the first time, like, that's amazing.
Yeah. But
a normal person, especially entry level, is that I don't know, or hey, I didn't think about that. So our process, I haven't been really involved in interviewing, so don't suck up to me. But I give them the question, they give me a solution that doesn't solve everything, but the next step is like, here I want you to write unit tests. And then we write those, you go, oh, hey, I didn't think about this, didn't think about it. And I leave it up to them. Like, if you want to, you can correct your program or not, you know. And
Yeah.
I, of course, want them to say yes.
Yeah.
I want them to say, you know, I don't want them to go home and go, oh, you know, I didn't do this, you know. And if they get the last one right, you know, it's more important than the first one, right?
Yeah.
And, like, the asking questions, those are things that I look for in the interview process. And then, like, all the other questions we have, I tell them that it's not about, like, I want correct answers, and I love an applicant that can answer all of them.
Yeah.
But, well, like you said, just say I don't know.
Yeah.
And I don't. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, that's one reason why I actually went with the employer. So I had 2 interviews.
Mm-hmm.
One of them didn't really talk about tech stuff. One did. The reason I liked the one that did talk about or had me code in front of them,
Yeah.
they gave me problems that I had no clue how to solve.
Right.
And what they were looking for is how I responded.
Right.
So I think that's huge in the development of a developer, because if you know their entry level, you can't expect them to know everything. There's just no way. But if they have that natural wanting to know more and how to do it, and trying to problem solve and research and all that kind of stuff, I mean, that's hopefully going to show up in an interview question.
Right.
Which that's how I did it. I was like, can you explain this thing a little bit better? And they would explain it, and I'm like, okay, this is how I think I should do it, you know. And then they're saying, well, does that work for everything? Well, no, I got to figure out this, and I got to figure out this. And even though I didn't actually write a full program,
right,
they were
like, who expects you to? But go ahead,
but it's that mindset, and I think they even took into consideration, like, so what else are you doing? So, like, obviously through college, I'm learning Java, learning a little bit of Python, learning a little bit of C++, whatever else, during your normal programming things, learning, you know, data structures, learning a little bit of HTML, learning a little bit of SQL, you know, a little bit of everything. They're like, what do you really like? What are you passionate about? What do you know, those kind of things. And Java was my thing, so obviously I want to go someplace with Java. But then they were also like, what else do you do? And so then I'm bringing up, well, I do VR. And they're like, what? That has nothing to do with our company. And I'm like, yeah, but my mindset is that I always want to learn. I always want to grow.
Right.
No matter if it's going to help my business, like my employer, as much as me. So, like, I still want to be a well-rounded developer. And if I just stick to Java, then how does that help me?
Well... So say that again. So how do say that again?
I believe it's important to not only just be focused on what the employer wants, like Java.
Yeah.
But for me to benefit myself, like that personal enjoyment of coding, because if all I did was program in Java all day, every day, doing the same thing over and over and over again, I would get really, really good at that. But I feel like I would get burned out. So like in my spare time, I'm also looking at, like, you know, Unity and VR, and or my job also wanted me to learn Golang, so I went and just started making Golang applications and having fun with that, learning AWS, learning this and that, to keep that excitement and that learning going.
I would say if you work in any, I mean, there is that job where you're just doing Java and you're just doing that. But, I don't know. Like, anywhere you go, there's always opportunities of new things to learn. I like the fact that during the pandemic, I switched roles and I got a position working remotely. Well, obviously remotely, but even if I think I might have been working remotely before, because the only other developer was in Denver. And so it was like, I can go in the office and remote, or I can go home and remote. So, So I really like that position because I really dived into AWS, and I hadn't really done any of that. And I wanted to, you know, like, the future's the cloud, and now the future's the AI, and, and stuff. So, What question have I not asked?
I think you asked it before. I just didn't fully get to it.
Okay.
But so wrapping back around to Operation Code and
Yeah.
like, you know, the reasons I went, what I've gained from it,
Yeah.
you know, how I can help better it. So I'm hoping that I'm helping Operation Code with some of my out of the box knowledge, I guess. Like everybody there is all the mentors there are great at programming.
Mm-hmm.
I just feel like I have that expertise of switching from a non-tech field
Yes.
into a tech field. So those emotions and those thought processes are a lot different than if you just go straight from college computer science into the
Yeah, it's a lot tougher, and imposter syndrome is a real thing, and unless you understand that, like, there are a lot of people that have like gone through boot camp and are ready to quit, and we're all like, it's normal.
yeah
It's normal to feel that.
Yeah.
And it's a part of the job, and you don't know how many times you'll get a problem or something, and you're like, I can't solve this myself. And you know, I Googled it, but if you work in an organization, you go, hey, go talk to this person because this person might be good at it, or somebody else, or just even like trying, you know this from teaching, even like if I tell you about my problem, I will solve the problem.
Yeah.
But it takes that explaining, it takes that, you know, different ways of thinking to solve the problem.
Yeah, I had that when I first started. There was a guy that wasn't on my team, but he used to work. I don't think he worked on my team, but he worked adjacent to my team, so he knew everybody on my team.
Yeah.
And somebody put it else, like a teaching expert. He was my rubber ducky.
Okay.
So that rubber ducky concept. So when I got stuck, which was often when I first started, because I didn't know anything about how their program worked, I'd go ask him a question about, okay, so how does this work? And he's like, well, I haven't touched it in a while. What do you know about it? And so he just had to ask me, well, what do I know? And then I'm starting to tell him what I do know.
Mm-hmm.
And every once in a while I would get something wrong, and he would tell me, hey, I don't think that's right. It's really this other whatever.
Yeah.
But most of the time, as I'm explaining it to him, I'm like, oh, I haven't thought about this before. Let me go back to my desk.
Right. That's good. That's good. All right, so final question. What is the meaning of life?
Is that something I can ask ChatGPT?
You can ask ChatGPT. It's nothing you don't have to answer if you don't want to. But I find it interesting because Lex Friedman does a podcast, and I really love him. I found him through Joe Rogan, and he interviewed him, and then I went and found a podcast, and he interviews, like, his last interview was like the former CEO of IBM. Like, it's like he's really big, and he always asks that question towards the end of the interview, and I always find it interesting what different people say.
Yeah.
So, what is the meaning of life, or do you want to pass?
I will take a shot at it.
Okay. It's not. There's no incorrect answer.
Well, I know. So the hard part for me is I'm actually a very religious person. So like, if you go on the religious side, you know, I'm a decently devout Christian. So whenever you talk about that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But to summarize it, even not putting too much religion into things, the meaning of life is being able to find that balance. That you feel purpose, and you feel like you're contributing. I mean, we say to society, but I don't even just contributing. Whether that to be to family or community or society or whatever else. But it feels like that happy spot when you are able to provide something to somebody else, community, otherwise. And you can just feel that peace of being able to.
The self-worth. If you, it's like, you know, I got a job because of confidence. Like, well, I got my first job out of college probably because of confidence, and the fact that I had internships. So, like, internships during college.
Yeah.
And I worked at college. So, like, there was more than just confidence, but I think it was just the fact that I was confident while talking, which is not natural to me. If people now know me now, they go, well, duh. But, like, I was very introverted in high school. And so if I think about the meaning of life, and I think about, you need to be able to, when you go to sleep, realize that you did good that day or that week. You don't have to be good every day. Yeah. But yeah, that's...
I think doing too far philosophical, I think that's one thing that that society and teenagers right now are missing.
Yes.
I felt like whenever, especially pre-pandemic, teenagers, whether it was through sports or through academics or other clubs, they were feeling some kind of purpose.
Yes.
And feeling like they could contribute to something.
Right.
And I think especially since the pandemic, a lot of people are missing that.
Right.
They're just, why am I even here?
Everybody, I hope you stay here.
Yeah.
It's
and I think that's, go back to the meaning of life, is trying to find that. You should always be growing towards that.
Yes.
What is your purpose? What do you want to contribute?
Well, I said there's no wrong answers, but I agree with you. All right. I'd like to thank everybody. This is FI Podcast with Phillip Hodges, and I'll see you. Bye.